What if God is not late? What if you're just early? You prayed, you fasted, you obeyed, you stayed pure, you kept yourself, you said no when everyone else said yes, and still nothing moved. You see, in this our culture, delay looks like failure. Once you delay just a bit, people are like, that one is not good for anything anymore. By a certain age, you're supposed to be married. By a certain age, you're supposed to have children. By a certain year, you're supposed to be somewhere. That's somewhere where nobody even knows where it is, but you're supposed to be somewhere. At this your age of 25 years, what do you have? Where are you going? Somewhere. You're supposed to be somewhere. And if you're not, people assume and people will die on that hill that something is wrong. But what if nothing is actually wrong? What if this whole time heaven is building infrastructure over your life while earth here, these your uncles, your aunties, your cousins, your people are just applying pressure left, right, and center? But waiting is a biblical thing. Waiting is a biblical principle, and it matters what you do while you wait. Abraham waited. David waited. Joseph waited. Delay in scripture is not what it is today. Delay in scripture was never humiliation. It was formation. It was process. It was transformation. It was being reshaped. It was being pruned. It was being refined. That is what delay, what waiting was biblically. So this episode today is for the believer who is tired of waiting. Like you're so tired of waiting, you're ready to just lower your standards. You're like, okay, whatever comes at this point, whatever comes, I will allow. In this episode, we are confronting insecurity, comparison. We are confronting the lie that speed equals favor, that speed equals getting to where you're going in time. Because God is not slow, God is strategic. Welcome to Delayed but Not Denied. Delayed but not denied. When God feels slow. You guys, has God ever felt slow in your life? Have you ever wanted God to sprint at the pace of like 100 meters runner to come and meet your needs? Has it ever felt like you want God to stop everything else and you just want him to focus on you because it feels like you've been praying about this thing? In my cell group, we call it backlog. It's like you have so much backlog of like unanswered prayers. You're like, God, when is it happening? And I am here to tell you that perhaps you don't need that thing to happen. Perhaps you and I need to mature some more in the Lord. Because if we are honest, the hardest part of this Christian walk of faith is not believing that God can do it. No. We all know that God can do it. The hardest part is believing that God will do it on time. Am I lying? You can be like, I believe God will give me children. I believe God will bless me with a marriage. But the when is the hard pill to swallow, because God can be like, I'll bless you with a family in 10 years from now. And you're like, no, God, no. Heaven is answering other people's prayer, but mine, God is leaving me on read. God is blue ticking me. It feels like God has kept your life file. Like whenever Okurut comes, he's like, okay, next. Whenever Aneno's file comes, he's like, okay, let's first deal with the other one. You've prayed, you've fasted, you've obeyed, you've said no when it would have been easier to say yes, and still nothing. So that's our goal today. I want us to confront this thing called delay, because this is where most believers lose their fire. So let me tell you again why waiting hits different. Waiting here in Africa and Uganda, it is so difficult to wait because age is not a private thing. People be knowing how old you are. They literally track you. By 25, they're asking you about marriage. Sir, where is our wife? Madam, where is our husband? By 27, 30, they're saying, where are our kids? I want grandchildren. Where are the babies? By 35, 33, now they've started whispering behind your back. They're like, oh, what's wrong with her? She never seems to have anything going on. Her life is always falling And if you dare say, I'm waiting on God, it sounds like an excuse. They'll be like, oh, you're waiting on God to do what? So you want God to throw the man from heaven onto your lap? Huh? It literally sounds suspicious when you tell people I'm waiting on God, because waiting in our culture is rarely respected. In fact, it is interpreted as failure. So when God delays something, it is not just spiritual pressure. To us as human beings, it translates as social pressure. There's a season in my life where I genuinely believed God had skipped my file. I remember people moving forward with their lives, weddings, platforms, opportunities, and me, I was still preparing. Even now, it feels like there are certain things I'm watching people just accomplish, and I'm still on the sidelines waiting for God to fulfill his word over my life. So you see, I'm talking from experience. And the worst thing is that preparation, this waiting period, my goodness, you can feel so invisible. You can feel so invisible in your waiting period, yeah? But I love how nowhere in the scriptures is waiting called punishment. In fact, it is obedience. It is obedience to wait on God. Isaiah 40:31 says, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They that wait upon the Lord. And the Hebrew word for wait means to bind yourself together with. So as you wait, you bind yourself together with God. As you wait, you bind yourself together with people who have like minds. As you wait, you don't just sit still. As you wait, you attach yourself to God and you cling and you say, "Mfida one, no, if God doesn't do it, then no one else will." Let's see how Abraham attached himself to God and waited for 25 years. What have you waited on God for 10 years? What have you waited on God for 15 years? For 20 years? This man waited 25 years for Isaac. David himself was anointed as king publicly. Like before eyes, they were seeing him get anointed. And then what happened? He was sent back to go and tend the sheep privately. Joseph was given a dream by God. And then after he was given a dream by God, what happened? Almost immediately, prison. So what am I saying? God is not slow. God knows what he is doing, you guys. God knows what he's doing with your life. God is strategic. Joseph just didn't need a palace. He needed administrative skill. He needed emotional resilience. He needed a depth in his character. Had he reached the palace too early, he would not have handled that pressure. You know that story. Had he reached the palace 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day too early, he would not have handled what was coming his way. So here is the whole truth. Sometimes we want the promise, but we don't want the weight that comes with the promise. Ask yourself. Sometimes I ask myself, you want this and that, but would your character survive the platform you're desperate for? Would your character survive the platform you're praying for? Would your marriage survive success? Would your soul survive the applause that you're longing for, you guys? The delay is building you. The delay is refining you. The delay is building the foundation of your life and God's will for your life. So hang on. Let's talk about, the difference between delay and denial. Am I living in delay or have I been denied? And you will need discernment for this. So let's balance the boat. You've heard people say not every delay is divine. Some delays are denials. God has said no. And then sometimes the delay is like God is saying, wait, your answer is coming. So how do we know the difference, Sandra? How do I know the difference? How do I discern that I am being delayed or that, God is completely denying this? I will tell you this. Ask yourself, does your dream align with Scripture? That thing that you desire, does it align with Scripture? Does it draw you closer to Christ or take you far away? When you surrender it to God, does peace return? If yes, that sounds like a delay because it sounds like God is still working on your heart. But if your dream produces obsession, jealousy, ego, pride, compromise, panic, that's a denial. I really believe God is saying, let it go, that is not for you. Because God's delays, they refine. God's denials redirect. Are you seeing the difference? I will say it again. When God delays you, he refines you. But when God denies something, he redirects you. In other words, he says, my daughter, this door A is not for you. I will close it. But I will redirect you to door B that is for you. And now that is where I'm saying maturity comes in, because you're able to discern the difference between, is this a denial or is this a delay? You will know that delay exposes insecurity, ego, and pride. You will know that delay will expose whether you love God for who he is or what you believe you can get from him. I hope somebody is thinking today. So as I come to the end of this, I just want to encourage you. I really, really just want to encourage you, you get, that as much as it feels like you're being delayed, you're not. You're right on time. You're not missing out on anything. You're not missing out on anything in that marriage. You're not missing out on anything in that relationship. Like, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Just keep running back to God and let him be the one to guide, direct. Because where God guides, he provides. Where God guides, he refines. Where God guides, he directs and disciplines. And that is everything that you could ever need to make all your dreams come true. See you in the next one.